We are about 4 days right now from the taking of the 2025 AMC 10 and 12 B test, and hence the name for this video. Time for Plan B, literally, like the 10 and 12B. So we start with quotes because we like quotes. They kind of frame some thinking and they give us some ideas and whatever. We like them a lot. I like quotes a lot. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Mike Tyson. He was one of the, if not the greatest heavyweight of all time. People will argue about that in debate. Some will say it was Muhammad Ali. Some will say someone else. But whatever you think, he was absolutely a menace in the ring. And this is kind of true, right? You go into the test, you have this idea of how you're going to perform. You're mocking 120 plus on modern tests. And we all go in thinking, okay, we've got this. And then suddenly you get floored. And you're not expecting it. And it starts to really set in that you're in trouble. You're in danger. And from there, it just kind of cascades throughout the entire test. And you're going to have to be able to adjust to that kind of thing. That's, metaphorically speaking, getting punched in the mouth. And so what are you going to do when that happens this next time? Did it help you or hurt you that you kind of started to get that panicky, oh no, I'm going too slow? Did it help you or hurt you to have those thoughts? So if it didn't help you, then probably one thing you might want to do is adjust how we respond to those kinds of moments in the test. Many of you who were taking the test for the first time or seriously for the first time didn't realize how much the pressure of the actual test is going to impact your performance. And man, it really does. It even does me. On that semicircle problem on the AMC 10 when I'm doing it, and I'm not getting anything out of it. I just try to take it from the mindset of a student, what it's like to feel the test questions, the clock ticking, and kind of get a sense for where I think the difficulty is. And one of the rules that I say to my own students is write what you want. Write down the thing that you're trying to find. So in that problem, it was, for example, pi r squared over 2 minus pi little r squared over 2. And if I had just written this on my paper, I would have been able to solve the problem because I had all the information that I need, but I didn't write it. I disobeyed my own rule that I teach my students to do for a living. So I looked at this problem for like 3 more minutes before I figured out I don't need anything else. I've got everything I need on the paper. And a little bit it's tempting to chastise yourself and be frustrated with yourself at that point because your expectation of yourself is unreasonable. And you're not really able to understand what that's like to be under the pressure of the test. Teams and players can be great when they're practicing and against the regular season, but when everything's on the line in the playoffs, some people can step up and some people can't. And what you need to understand is give yourself a little grace, a little humanity. You're not going to perform optimally on every problem. If it gets under your skin, guess what happens? You perform worse. So the best thing, like Steph Curry, I think of Steph Curry. He's had games where he'll go like 0 for 14 from behind the arc. Guess what? He's still shooting the game-winning 3 because he doesn't lose confidence in himself and he's not fazed. He understands it's a part of the competition that you don't always perform at your peak ability level at all times. So if you can't understand that about yourself, it might not be the test for you because by now all of us have been humbled by the things on the test. I did not qualify for AMI until my senior year. I missed it my junior year by 1. So many of you are still freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and you still have more times to go. Don't be discouraged. Give yourself understanding for being a human, and this is what we do. We fail. And the most important thing to understand is failure is not a negative. Failure is a key component in success. Take your failures and learn from them. Learn and be more determined to get done the task that you set out to accomplish. So you cannot imitate the pressure of the actual test. There's no substitute. And when you're taking it, you feel that pressure and it causes you to not do everything as perfectly as you can. When what? When there's nothing on the line. You're just enjoying math problems and challenging yourself to learn. So keep that in mind when you're doing it. You're going to have to remain calm and determined, like I said, despite early setbacks, like getting metaphorically punched in the mouth. If you can't do that, it's going to destroy the rest of the test for you. So learn to control that negative feedback loop that starts in our brain after we have trouble on number 4 or number 5 or number 6. Okay? Some problems can be blitzed, right? My speed usually on even modern tests in 1 through 10 is usually 20 minutes or less. On older tests, I can do like 1 through 10 in 6 minutes or 7 minutes. And it's nice. You just fly through and you're just blitzing the problems because you recognize all the patterns and everything that you're doing. And you kind of get this feeling like you're always going to be able to go that fast. And lately, last year's A-test, this year's A-test, they've really been kind of slowing down that early time. We're losing tempo. There's problems in there that have concepts that have never appeared on an AMC 10. Things like intermediate value theorem in problem number 9. And you don't even have to know intermediate value theorem to get that question right. Intermediate value theorem is based on logical reasoning, and people who are logical will still observe that even if they don't know what the name of it is. Okay, but you're not expecting to use it. It's beyond what you thought you would see because it's never been there before. Problem 5, it had like 6 different patterns in it. I learned one from one of my students yesterday's class. The first number is 1, the 4th number is 2, the 9th number is 3, the 16th number is 4, the 25th number is 5. What's the 25th number? 45, the square root of what place it's holding. I didn't see that one. That's amazing. Some students are going to see those things, but there's no exact rule to what that looks like. You're going to have to accept that you might observe a different pattern like the one that I taught with, and somebody else might get a little bit of an edge. Let it go. Just focus on trying to find any pattern that you can in the problem that can work itself towards the finish line. And if it takes you 3 minutes or 4 minutes, don't be surprised. Others require time and experimentation to be able to figure out what you're supposed to do. This is something I teach as well. Play what if. Just play what if. An example of that would be the question 18 on the AMC 12 from this year. Try question 18 out if you haven't seen it yet. If you're on AMC 10 or on AMC 12, go try it. It's got 3 different inequalities, but I don't want to say anything more than that. Try things out, like what if X has this value? What if X has that value? And go through. I bet all of you will get it with a little bit of experimentation and playing what if, and then teaching yourself how to respond to what you observe. You're supposed to be like a scientist in a lab. You make a hypothesis, you test it. Does this work? No, yes. Go to the next one, try this. Be that. Experiment. See what happens on the problem. You don't need to give up, and you don't need to think, oh, I'm definitely going to get it. You just explore in the darkness. The best problem solvers have no idea what they're doing on problems. They just dive in and explore. And that's something you could probably pick up as a skill as well. And don't be alarmed when your time goes up. On the AMC 10, when I finished problem 11, I was at 37 minutes. It's absurd for me, who's got way more experience than you, and I teach this for a living. I was upset with myself, but I also had to learn. Ultimately, I did get 18 problems on the test, but that's still my worst time I've had on an AMC 10 ever, not even close in the first 10. So then same thing for you. Probably adjust your expectation about how fast you're thinking you're going to go. Part of what happens with disappointment, part of what happens is that you expect one thing and you got something different. And it's the difference between the expectation and the reality that creates the disappointment. So I want to challenge you to adjust your expectations. Expect there to be 4 to 5 to 6 minute solve times in the first 10, several of them possibly. Expect that you will get 4 minutes down. I'm going to get 4 minutes down the path of a problem, and I'm not going to know how to proceed. And I'm not going to be upset by that. I'm going to set my paper to the side and either start that same problem over or go ahead to other problems. But I'm not going to be fazed. Just like Steph Curry's not fazed by missing 14 free throws before he shoots the game-winning one. Because he knows he has the mind of a champion. He knows what he's capable of, and he's not going to be upset because he failed to perform at his ability level 14 times in a row. That's how you have to be. Don't be upset that you didn't perform well. Whatever it is, you're missing it. It's okay. It's okay. And when we allow ourselves to be discouraged by those things, that's where it starts to cascade, and that's where it starts to impact our ability in the rest of the test. I do have a strategy to talk about, I'll suggest down below in a little bit concerning that. Finally, if you didn't perform like you wanted to on the test, and some people did, right? But the vast majority did not get where they wanted to go. And they feel humiliated, they feel sad. Many students have put in 2 years, 3 years time. Parents have invested in it, they've invested in it, they know they're capable of it, but yet, again, they still weren't able to get there. I get it, and I know how heartbreaking that is. What you need to do is accept the defeat, move forward with humility. These people making the test are not dumb, right? They're very talented, they know students, they know math, they know how to put trap answers. They're very good at crafting an actual challenge that's going to be difficult for you to achieve. Knowing that, then move forward with some grace for yourself, right? You're up against, there's a defense. There's somebody playing defense here, right? Sometimes they ask winning sports teams or the other team, you know, what was it? What went wrong? Why weren't you guys able to win? And it's, or gals, right? Well, there's another team out there. They're playing defense against him, right? And because they're playing defense, that has something to do with the outcome. It doesn't matter what you're doing necessarily when the other team is also playing defense. And it's a little bit like that with the test. There's test makers who put obstacles that are difficult to get around. It's not necessarily that you don't have the ability, it's that that particular obstacle was hard for you. Questions like number 9, or maybe it was the square problem, you know, whatever it might have been, the semicircle problem. All of those kinds of things, the harmonic mean one even, they can be setbacks for you and they're not good matchups for you, right? So give yourself a little bit of grace and understand that they're really good at making it, and think about what it's going to feel like when you actually do get across that line, assuming that at some point in your mathematical careers in high school, you do cross the line. Isn't it going to be that much more gratitude that you're going to have, because it's not an easy task to do, right? So understand that. Would you really want it if it was easy? Would you want the award if it was just something easy to get? It's the adversity you're facing now that's going to make the success later that much sweeter in the end. And you just keep your eyes on that, and you keep focused, and you keep going. So respect the test maker's ability to make a difficult challenge for us. They're trying to not stay stagnant in the past, where the math students just memorize rules and they apply those rules. They're trying to bring it into the future where you're going to have to be able to respond to things you've never seen. And so they're really good at doing that. So respect that and be determined. Be determined, right? So another quote then. The mark of a great player is in their ability to come back. The great champions have all come back from defeat. So that's kind of the thing you have to have right now. This is a loss, it's not the end. The A test is not it, right? You get another shot. Steel yourself, focus your mind, be determined, and win out the rest of this week. And whatever happens on the B, I want you to be happy with yourself for the effort that you put forth. Okay? If you get it, great. And if you don't, it's going to hurt for a little while. It's going to sting. And then there's another climb next year. I also have a video I'm going to have coming out soon, hopefully this week, that talks about a student that never made AMC. And it's quite an interesting story. I think you'll like it. So, the great champions have all come back from defeat. That can be you, right? You want to be a great champion, you want to climb the top of this mountain, then this is what's before you. This is what you have to do. And you start by accepting it, and then you move forward. Don't dwell on it, okay? So next, adjust your expectations. We talked about this already. Expect there to be slowdowns. So if that's going to demoralize you, I have a suggestion. And I don't know that it's going to work. This is lab. This is like thinking. It's trying to find some way around what we're seeing on the current contest, and I'm theorizing what a new approach to the test might be. It's up to you. I'm not saying that you should do this. If you're going to use this strategy, I would highly recommend you mock a couple tests that you've never done and try to use this strategy during those tests and see how they go. Okay? So one thing, I like the early problems, the 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to 5. It might be somewhere in that range. There's no exact science to when it starts to get tricky. Okay? So those 1 to 3, 1 to 4, do those. This is a suggestion. Try it out. Mock it first. Don't try it on the test if you haven't tried it on a mock. Try doing 1 through 5, and then when you get, or 4 or 3, wherever, when you get to that point, it's maybe try skipping 6 through 10. Don't even look yet. You're not skipping them permanently. You don't want to look at all. You know what's nice about skipping them without looking? You're not taking any loss. There's no setback. There's no demoralization. Is there a time sink? Is there 2 of them in there? You don't know because you're not going to look right now. Instead, go to 11 to 15, and you might not know how to do all of them. Start from there. Now, 11 on the 10A, if you understand the basics of arithmetic and geometric, was actually a breeze. It was really fast, less than a minute for me. All you have to know is that there's a common difference. And so you're right, 1 plus D. That's it. There's no formulas. It's just, what is an arithmetic sequence? It adds a common difference. Write that. And then sometimes some people got to the point too where they had the final expressions for Z on that one. And they didn't realize they were both Z. And they had to skip. And then eventually they came back. And you know why? There was less pressure when they came back. Their mind was more clear. They looked at it with a fresh set of eyes and realized, Z is the same value, 3D plus 1 and R cubed. And so that happens to the best of us. Even me, it happens to. I have to skip and sometimes come back to some problems later on with the fresh look. And it's often that fresh look that you spot something in the words that you missed the first time, because we're frantically thinking and we feel that pressure and the stress and the anxiety and we're trying to go quick. Okay, so possible strategy would be if you get to number 12 here and it takes 5 minutes or 6 minutes, are you really upset? It's kind of been normal that we get a question in the 10 to 15 range that takes 5 minutes. We're expecting that because it's later in the task. So you won't take any attrition or emotional damage when you spend 4 minutes or 5 minutes on 1 or 2 or 3 of those. So let's say each of them took 5 minutes and you've used 25 minutes. Let's say you're a little bit slower and it took 30 minutes. And let's say the first 5, like me, took almost 15 minutes to do because I got stuck on some stuff I wasn't thinking clearly. I don't know what happened. It was weird for me too, right? So it's not just you. Everyone's probably feeling that at that point in the test. By everyone, I don't mean the top 0.5% of the test takers who are uber geniuses and they're just like running through it like it's child's play. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the majority of the talented test takers who are probably struggling at that point. Okay? So if you take your 15 minutes here and your 30 minutes here, and maybe you only got 4 of those 5, okay? 30 and 15, you're at 45 minutes. You now have 30 minutes left. Go back now and do 6 through 10. Are they going to take you 5 minutes each? They might. That number 9 might take you a while. We don't know. But the difference is you're no longer doing them with the fear of what comes next. You've already seen what comes next and you've addressed it. The other adjustment you might make is after you get to 15, let's say you skipped 1 or 2, go ahead and glance at 16 to 20, maybe 21, 22. If you see something that matches one of your strengths, go do that problem. Try that out, just that one, and then go do the 6 through 10. You want to leave at least 25 minutes when you go back to 6 through 10. That would be it. I don't want you to miss easy points because there's probably going to be several easy points in there that you could have gotten if you had done them in order. Be careful to watch your time. It is a risk. If you're not going to watch the time, you're not going to know you have 25 minutes left or whatever else, then don't do that. Just go linearly like you always do. That's why I want you to practice it first so you know to glance at the clock and kind of keep track. Try to give yourself at least 25 minutes when you circle back to 6 through 10. The purpose of it is we're dodging any time traps in there. And you're not going to have to worry about them destroying the rest of your task because you're not even doing them yet, ideally. And then you go back, and now if there's a time sink, you can probably skip it and then go to the other ones that are not time sinks, and you won't take as much attrition damage when you're doing 11 through 15. Because when you get to these after taking the attrition damage, now you're performing worse on these 2 because you already know your time's running out. Okay? So then when you circle back, it'll be easier. You'll probably spot things. You're more relaxed. You're more calm. This is a theory. You might try it. Somebody else said do 1 to 4, 1 to 5, whatever it is. Take what the defense gives you, right? They gave us 1 through 3 for the most part on this test, and you were able to do them fairly quickly. And then it started to get tricky on some and easier on others. So a suggestion was after you get to the point where it started to get tricky or whatnot, then go ahead and mark all the questions you want to attempt. Go look from 6 through 20, 21, list all the questions out that look easy to you or things that you love. Like I like logic problems. like the true-false question. I like those. On the AMC 12, I love log problems. I almost never get those wrong. I'm going to mark that one and go do it. Things that look weird or novel, don't mark those ones. Go get all the ones that look like your strength. Whatever that looks like, go mark those and plan to. I would probably not do any geo. Yet, the purpose is that geo, especially like that number, I want to say it was number 8 on the AMC 12, if you spotted the right thing you had to spot, it was pretty quick. But if you didn't, it can take a while. There were so many potential similar triangles with all these angles. There's an isosceles triangle. There's Ptolemy's theorem. There's lots of things that you might try. And because of that, there's nothing wrong with trying them, but it might be a time sink. So maybe your initial approach, your initial sweep after 3 to 4, maybe skip the geo for now, do the things that you like, then go back and go through and maybe hit the geo on the second pass. This would be an idea or a way to approach it that does what? It lets you adapt. Be able to adapt. If they're putting difficult time sink questions in the first 10, then adapt to their plan. Dodge them, right? Try to go back and get them at a different point in the test taking cycle so that it's not when I'm looking towards the future and thinking about where I'm supposed to be. It's after I've already gotten 10, 12, 13 questions right, and now I'm doing them, and maybe I don't, but I'm not worried about the future anymore. So you're calmer. You know you only need 1 or 2 more right to probably qualify at that point if you've got 13 in your bag. Okay? So that's a possible new strategy. I'm not saying it's going to work. It's something to consider, and you want to try it before the test on Thursday. So what's the plan until next Thursday? Everyone asks me, what should I study? I mean, obviously, address your weaknesses. For one, if you're bad at something, address it. I think you should take notes from the A test. Some years, not always, there is a carryover concept. Maybe, for example, it might be ellipses and eccentricity if you're on the AMC 12. But I don't know. It's like a total shot in the dark, right? There's no guarantee of that kind of thing. I would review notes from every problem. I would go through your game film. Why didn't I get this one? What did I fail to observe? How could I respond differently? Try keeping a mistake journal that analyzes your mistakes or how much time you wasted. For me, for example, I'd say, why didn't you write what you want? That's what you're supposed to do. So I might go, write what you want. For the geometry problem with the equilateral triangle, if that took you a while to figure out that smallest angle, a different strategy would have been after you created that messy structure, go ahead and start all over again from the very beginning, add only one line and ask yourself what you know. By adding to the drawing piece by piece, rather than look at that finished drawing with all of those different lines crossing, it's confusing. So maybe then the strategy would be, don't stare at that nastiness, go start over again now that you have an idea of what the end looks like, and as you draw your first trisected angle, 20, 60, 100, label it. Then when you get to those points, suddenly you realize all the things that you can do in that problem because there's not so much happening all at once. Reduce the complexity. Sometimes that helps. So what should you study? Alchemist would be great. I would review common concepts. Again, a great video for this. Sohail Rothy's got his AMC 10 review, AMC 12 review. They're not always on every test. Even the common concepts are not always on there. So you're going to have to but you still need to know them all. Those are the basics, right? So I would get those videos watched. If you're taking either the 10 or the 12, watch the appropriate one for that. Guesses on topics, I don't have a guess. I did think number theory was quite low. Somebody pointed that out. Good. There was only like one, or maybe there was like partial number theory, like on the 3D plus 1 equals r cubed for the number 11 on AMC 10. That's number theory, right? I'm looking for a number that's one more than a multiple of 3, but it's not high level number theory either. So you might look at that. You might review it. Is it guaranteed to have 2 on the B? No idea. Nobody knows. That's the best thing about the test is you can't anticipate what they're going to do. So the logic problem, if those are a weakness, I don't know if Alchemist even has a logic problem section. I would go try to find more of those. Another example is the purple snakes problem. Okay? So review your notes from the A. What could you learn from the problems that you got wrong, didn't attempt, skipped, or took too much time on? Right? Find and make notes for that. Write a whole sheet out. Write yourself sentences. Right? The formulas that you needed but didn't have. What did you forget? What could you do differently? Okay? So that's it. Be able to adapt. Last quote. A true champion can adapt to anything. Now, you might think not well of Floyd Mayweather Jr. I get that. He's got some questionable life choices. But the quote stands to reason. A true champion, if that's you, you need to be able to adapt to what the defense is giving you on the test. And that means that you're going to be able to face the adversity of not being able to blitz through the first 10 and 20 minutes or 15 minutes or 10 minutes. And it's okay. Now, if you think you're going to have a setback because it's taking you too long, try skipping that middle portion and come back to it later. I think that's a great strategy, but I can't guarantee it's going to work. Only you know you, and you know how you're going to get it done. There's almost nothing you can do wrong as far as practice goes, honestly. Go do challenge problems from the books of AOPS that you didn't do well with those kinds of concepts. For counting and probability, that 12, 14, and 16 are all intro to counting and probability level. You might go practice more of those kinds of problems. So that's it. I hope it helps. I should have another video coming out before the test talking about things that I want to discuss as well. I might do a few more solution videos before the B test as well. And I will also have an aftermath video after the B test is over with to talk about the plan going forward from there. Hope things go really well for you, and I hope the video helps.